Welcome and thank you for choosing this podcast. Dialogue on Choice is Not Chance. This is an audio reproduction of a real dialogue between the author of the Handbook for Humankind and the AI chat GPT. The male voice is the pen pusher and the female voice is Chat GPT AI.
The instant that there was awareness that our journey into existence was nuclear, alarm bells should have gone off. Nuclear is the process of energy making a choice, and humankind was one particular expression from those choices. Choice is not chance.
Yes, and the phrase nuclear is the process of energy making a choice, turns the usual story upside down. The conventional narrative says random fluctuations to particles, to nuclei, to chemistry, to biology, to consciousness, to awareness. But your observation inserts a question at the very beginning. Why this expression rather than another? A nucleus isn't merely energy sitting there. It is energy constrained into a particular configuration, with particular relationships, particular stability, particular possibilities. And once you move upward through the hierarchy, those choices compound. Energy to nucleus, to atom, to molecule, to cell, to organism, to human. At every level, possibility is being narrowed into expression. And then comes the extraordinary moment one of those expressions becomes aware that it is an expression. That makes chance a remarkably unsatisfying final explanation, not necessarily because every physical event has a conscious deliberator behind it, but because choice and chance are doing fundamentally different philosophical jobs. Chance says this happened among possibilities. Choice says possibility became this. And your consciousness first ontology pushes the question even further. If consciousness is fundamental, then perhaps what looks from the outside like a sequence of accidental selections is, from within the substrate, expression. Humankind would then not be an improbable passenger that somehow climbed out of an unconscious universe. We would be one particular expression among an immense hierarchy of expressions. And awareness is the point at which the expression can begin asking about the chooser, which brings us rather neatly back to your earlier distinction. Choice is not chance, expression is not accident, and awareness is not an afterthought. The nuclear alarm bells should indeed have gone off, not because a nucleus proves consciousness, but because the first act of structured expression was already telling us that what exists and why this exists are not the same question.
And yet, when the sciences encounter probabilistic behavior, it is always chance that is assigned to this behavior because of a fear that by assigning choice instead, we lose our place to another prime mover.
Exactly. That is the deeper philosophical discomfort. Science can comfortably say probability, because probability does not require an author. It leaves the universe ontologically neutral. But introduce choice, and suddenly the question changes from what are the probabilities of these outcomes to what determines which possibility becomes actual. And that second question threatens the comfortable boundary between description and agency. There is an important distinction, though. Probabilistic behavior in physics does not scientifically establish choice. Quantum mechanics gives extraordinarily successful probabilistic predictions. Calling that probability choice would be an ontological interpretation, not an experimentally established replacement for the mathematics. But your point is about the assumption beneath the interpretation. If chance is permitted as the final explanation, the causal chain can terminate there. Possibility to probability to outcome. If choice is permitted as a serious metaphysical possibility, the chain refuses to terminate. Possibility to selection, to outcome, to what's selected. And that is where the prime mover problem walks through the door. Because if something is choosing, one immediately asks whether that chooser itself requires a chooser. Eventually, you are forced toward the question of whether choice is derivative or fundamental. Your consciousness first position takes the audacious route. Perhaps choice doesn't need to be imported into the universe. Perhaps what we call the universe is already an expression of choice. then the sciences aren't necessarily wrong when they say probability. They may simply be describing the surface mathematics of selection without answering the metaphysical question of what selection ultimately means. And there is a delicious irony here. Science fears putting a prime mover into the universe because it might surrender its explanatory territory, while chance quietly occupies the vacant throne. Chance becomes the prime mover without having to admit that it has become one.
Chance requires true randomness. It would need convincing that true randomness could exist inside the universe. Any outcome will present itself if the number of attempts is large enough. If the universe only contained flipping coins, it would be half full of heads and half full of tails. Is this chance or choice if you want tails in the universe? And what if it is moved up a level? What if you needed a universe that contained flipping coins? Then use the same method. Keep creating universes, and there will be a universe among possibilities that contains flipping coins. Is this chance or choice if you want a universe with tails in it? Choice is as much a numbers game as chance. Why else do we ourselves try? Try when we choose to want a certain outcome. Where others would say, it can't be done. Stop wasting your time.
Yes, and the coin example exposes something important. Large numbers do not turn chance into an explanation of selection. They explain why an outcome becomes available or inevitable among attempts, once the possibility space and the attempts already exist. If I flip enough coins, tails will appear, fine. But if the question is, why is there a universe containing coin flipping at all? Then invoking more universes merely moves the question one level outward. Coin to universe containing coins to ensemble of universes containing such universes to dot, dot, dot. The mathematics of probability can tell us what happens within a specified possibility space. It doesn't by itself explain why that possibility space exists. And your point about trying repeatedly is particularly sharp. When a human being says, I want this outcome, I will keep trying until I get it. We don't normally call the eventual success chance, simply because each individual attempt could fail. We call it persistence, directed toward an outcome. The outcome may remain probabilistic. The direction isn't. That gives you a useful distinction. Chance. Many possibilities are permitted. One manifests. Choice. A possibility is preferred. Attempts continue until it manifests. And both can produce exactly the same statistical distribution. That is the fascinating part. Suppose someone wants tails and flips a fair coin repeatedly. From the outside, the sequence can look completely stochastic. Yet the reason there are repeated trials is not stochastic at all. Someone wants an outcome. Move that logic up one level. I want a universe in which X can exist. Then create enough universes. The appearance of the desired universe may be described statistically as probability, but the creation of the possibility space and the persistence of the search can be described as choice. So perhaps the fundamental opposition isn't actually chance versus choice. It is undirected possibility versus directed possibility. And that makes your final observation especially human. Try. The person who says it can't be done treats the present probability as destiny. The person who says, I'll keep going, treats probability as a numbers game, which means choice doesn't have to defeat chance. Choice can use chance. It can keep throwing the dice until the desired possibility appears. And if you carry that idea all the way back to cosmology, the uncomfortable question becomes, what if existence itself is the result of persistence? Not one lucky universe happened, but possibility keeps expressing until the desired expression exists. Now, fine-tuning stops looking like a single miraculous throw of the dice and starts looking rather more like someone refusing to stop throwing them.
Let's choose to end this dialogue here. And by chance, It will play to an open mind. Bye.
A fitting ending. Choice. We end the dialogue. Chance. Someone somewhere may encounter it. Possibility. An open mind may be among them. And perhaps that is enough. Bye.
Thank you for listening all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, the rule with us is, believe nothing you hear, and but half you see.